Hey, hope everyone's having a good day and is ready for another video in the series we like to call Underrated Throwers. So today we got Sandra Perković. Now, for those of you who know anything about throwing, you might be wondering, how is Sandra Perković, two-time gold medalist in the Olympics, two-time world champ, five-time world champ medalist, like, I don't know, like 11 or something time Diamond League champ. I mean, she just has so many medals. It's crazy. She's probably the most decorated discus thrower of all time. Um, I can't think of a single other discus thrower that's more accomplished than her. Maybe Gerd Cantor in terms of medal count, but even then, I think, sad to say, she might have him beat. So, you might be thinking, how is she very underrated? Well, I got a couple reasons. One, I think even though she medaled, got the silver bronze, yeah, I think the silver medal in 2022. I don't know. I feel like there's just been a lot of hype with Logie and Valeria Allman. Rightfully deserved. That I think sometimes people forget that for like the past. God, it's almost coming up on 10 years. Yeah. For like the past more than a decade, Sandra Perković basically dominated throws, the woman's discus. She was untouchable. And even now, she's still great. She's still throwing over 68. Her PR is like 71. Actually, I think this is her PR, isn't it? She's had so many 71-meter throws, 71-41. This is that throw. So we're just going to look at it real quick. Let me switch views. Oh, okay, I guess when I record, it doesn't turn into widescreen. Sorry about that. I should have thought about that before, but we'll work through it. Okay, it doesn't help for me to zoom in. That's annoying. Oh well, me and technology just doesn't go well together. But let's get into this. So, yeah, I just think she's just really underrated in terms of what she's accomplished. I don't think a lot of, I mean, I would think that a lot of younger throwers would maybe know who she is because she's probably one of the more recent throwers that I've actually done one of these videos on. And the fact that she's still throwing, and I actually didn't even know it. She's only 33. I thought she was way older, but she's just been dominating for so long. Maybe that's why. I thought she was older than she is, but she's still like has years left of throwing. If she wants to, honestly, but I think she's also a very underrated technician. I've heard people say that she has very weird technique and that she's not a very good technical model, and I tend to believe that's very not true at all. I think someone who's throwing this far is as consistent as her and has won and medaled as much as she has. I think those are very good things to try and replicate. All right, and I think a lot of people. I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this. I don't like the way Valerie Adams throws. I don't think she uses the woman's discus to the most optimum amount that she can. I think she throws like a guy, like a man. And I don't think that's the way you should throw a woman's disc. Now, I know technically she throws her PRs further than Sandra Perković, but I don't know. It's just never sat right with me. There's nothing like wrong with it. I just don't think it's the way a woman's discus should be thrown, even though she can throw really far with it. But I think that's more of just because she's just a physical specimen. So, I don't know. When I think of technical models, I tend to use Sandra Perković more for women's disc. I use her and I use Caballero from Cuba, who have also made a video on. So, and she's a reverser. Sandra Perković, from this video is a non-reverser. So, Yeah, I think Sandra Perković throws a woman's disc like a woman's disc should be thrown. Just every position she hits, you just can't throw a 2K like this, and I think that's really good for a 1K. I think her technique allows for really great feel for the discus and really allows it to not muscle the discus. You know, that I tend to think a lot of women do because most women have a power to weight ratio that really exceeds what the 1K is in hand to a woman that's usually really strong because a 1 kilo implement is not very heavy at all. So and most women can probably palm a 1K discus because they're not very big. So it's it's very easy. It's just like the 4K hammer. It's very easy to just bully the implement, and I think Sandra Perković does a great job in not doing that and throwing it the way it's meant to be. Now, there are some things that she can do that a lot of women can't do or can't do yet in terms of until they get years and years of training. And, Sandra Perković is also, like Valerie Allman, a supreme athlete. You can't throw as far as she does without being a supreme athlete. So, but let's get into technique. So, and I'll explain as I go along what I'm talking about. So, let's get in. And again, I do apologize for this format. I know I usually do widescreen, like landscape view. So, it's not very small, but I don't feel like re-recording. So, yeah. Sorry. So let's get into this. So let's just watch this one more time. Regular speed. I just love this throw. Her and Lars Riedel probably have my favorite non-reverses, with Robert Harding and Jürgen Schultz coming in a close third and fourth. I just love Sandra Perkovic's non-reverse. It's so good. It's so textbook. All right, but we'll get into that. So winds really low. Really, I want you to look at how far back she winds this disc. And that's the thing. It's hard to do. You don't really want to do this with a 2K unless, it's really, unless you're super duper strong. But with a 1K, this is a toy for her. This probably weighs like her, as much of her as her hand to her. It probably just feels like nothing. So, you want to wind back as far as possible to try and get as much stretch as possible. And that's a thing that women have over men when it comes to discus, which is one of the reasons why the women's world record is further than the men's world record, is because they can hold the discus back further, get more stretch, and use a lot more stretch because women in general are a lot more mobile than men. All right. And also, the discus doesn't weigh as much compared to how strong they are. So, women can get away with a lot more stuff. They don't have to be as technically proficient to throw far as men do, which is a good thing. Less work to get same results. That's cool. So it's here, and I don't mean less work like they don't put in work. Okay, comment section. I'm not being sexist. So let's get back to this. So she's here. Really like this wind. I like women, if they can do this, to wind like this. And then have feet really evenly distributed in terms of weight. She has a wider stance than I would coach. But people throw far with a really wide stance. Such as her and some other people. So it's not like that big of a deal. That's more of just a preference thing. I just want to highlight this one thing that men normally cannot do. I want you to look at the angle of this leg right here. This knee. The knee is facing this gate. The foot is facing the sector. and the right leg just picked up. I cannot name a man who can get into this position. It's actually almost inhuman how good of a, like, if men could do this, they would. um it's actually quite astonishing. But women can do this if they're mobile enough, you know. And if you can handle the quicker speeds out the back and you can still accelerate, it's just better to go faster. If you can handle the speeds and don't decelerate in the front, and you can still accelerate out of this position, you definitely can. So if women could do that, like a lot of women could do this would be great. I like to coach keeping the right foot on the ground as long as possible, or the sweep leg on the ground as long as possible to get the biggest stretch possible. And if you don't believe me, believe Vestina Styson, who I made a video on too, and was the coach of Gerd Kanter and Daniel Stahl and Simone Peterson, and a plethora of other goated discus throwers. So if you don't believe me, believe him. All right. So she's here. Really I love her lower body throughout the entire throw. I like her sweep leg, so it gets bent here, then elongates, shows the groin to the sector. And I like the discus. It's relatively far back. But then this is where she regains her stretch. So she's super wide here. I don't like that she extends this, but she makes it work because she was so aggressive out the back that she still gets this forward, the forward momentum that she needs to get into the middle. It doesn't cause her to hop, which is good. So that's good. I just personally would like to keep that leg bent, but she makes it work, so who cares? I tend to coach, if it works for the person, why change it? If they feel comfortable with it and it's not really causing any problems, why change it? Just because it doesn't fit like my personal belief, doesn't mean that everyone has to throw like me or like your coach or whatever to throw far. People throw far in very different ways. Not everyone looks like Sandra Perković. It's just one of my big pet peeves when I see people that just look exactly the same. And it might work. Whatever. I'm not going to get in a tangent. So she's here. So she gets her separation back here. All right. So if you want to see a good example of holding the chest to sector to get separation, Sandra Perković is one of the best people to look at that. Holds the chest forever, lets the right leg get super ahead, and because of the stretch that she got out of the back between her groin and her hip, to just snap that around. So I want you guys to just look in regular speed. You see how it just whips around there? Do it again. You see that one little frame? So here, it's here, one frame. Again, one. Look how far ahead that is. 2 frames. 4 frames. It takes her from here to here, 4 frames. That's it. That is not a long time at all. And I just want you guys to pay attention real quick. Watch the acceleration she gets because of that snap and that stretch reflex she gets from staying on the ground, staying grounded as long as possible at the back. And again, this is really good for women. Men, if you can do this and stay strong, then that's cool. Daniel Stahl also does a great job of that as well. But he's also a freak of nature. But he kind of, not to the same extent as Perković, but does kind of the same thing. All right, so just keep that in mind. But this is how you get separation in the throw in the middle. All right, holding the chest while letting the right leg work around. So that creates a tremendous stretch in your hip, which makes you snap down and then gets your left leg to snap around. So then you land, and her left leg down there. Look how far back this discus is. And look how she's already basically turned and prepped to throw. Her hips are perfectly under her. Everything is, her right side is perfectly stacked. Her head is over her shoulder, which is over her hip, which is over her right foot. Everything is perfect. I really love this, the knee out over the toe. So she's here, and you see how when she goes, her right knee goes over her toe, so she gets rotational. So then what she does is she gets super out with the discus and has a long path with it on the finish. And I just want you to notice how snappy she is on this finish and how beautiful her block is. So she's here. Her left leg does not move until so late. It's crazy how long she holds that block. I mean, the discus is already probably at, I don't know, like 20 meters, 30 meters by the time her left foot even moves. Okay, maybe more like 20 meters. But you get the point. You know, like people don't hold the block that long. Really, the only person I've ever seen hold the block that long is Lars Riedel. So it's high Collins, because I think he probably has the best non-reverse ever. And I also did a video on him, so you can check it out. And so there's another thing I really like. This right heel. So just here, left foot touches and just keeps turning. All right, keeps turning, and it's stiff. All right, and she's rotational. So that's what you want in a non-reverse. You want to be as rotational with the hips as possible and be as long and out as here. And you notice how her knees stay bent. That's what you want right here. And then she steps to recover. And you notice when she releases, the upper body block stays there. So the block is two parts. It's the upper body and the lower body. All right. So the whole left side has to stay. And then that stays. Her hips are done. And all that's left is all that energy goes into that right arm. Boom. And it's just a lever. Just doom. Right there. Oh, that's beautiful. God, I wish I could non-reverse like that. Well, I could dream. But, I mean, she just has such underrated technique. Oh, I also forgot to mention this part. The one of the most defining parts of a Sandra Perković throw is this high left arm in the middle. Which I personally coach more level arms. But I like this. Because she brings it in. And I think actually, if memory serves me correctly, Allman does something similar to this. It's not as high, but she does a re-wrap. So she goes here, and you notice as this right foot and right hip is coming into the middle, her left arm goes in. So she kind of has her arm tucked into her chin. Like she brings her bicep into her chin. And this stops the upper body for a split more second. So she gets even more separation. And it's able to hold that separation even longer. So then when she goes, she lands perfectly, shifts into her block, and goes. So that's something to keep in mind too. And, for men, you want to try and work the ground as long as possible. So you see how she's just turning? This is another difference. This finish would not work with a 2K. I would suggest looking at Lars Riedel's non-reverse because he had the ball of the foot's on the ground and he's turning. But with a 1K, because she went so fast out the back, and because she's using all these stretch reflex stuff, she just turns, slams the hips, and goes. And that's all you needed with a 1K, honestly. It's one of the bigger differences. A 1K, you can go as fast as possible, and as long as you have a good release, it doesn't really matter, honestly. As long as you can handle it, speed is very good to throw a 1K. It's hard to rush a 1K throw. All right, if you have really good, solid foundational technique, you can just slam the finish. That's why when you normally see men do pro men do stand throws with a 2K, they tend to just feel positions out and find a release. When you see women throw stand throws in the pro circuit and stuff, they just slam it and throw 62 meters or something like that. It's like some crazy stuff. I see men too, throw over 60 meters, but they're not really trying. Lars Riedel famously, I think, has had the furthest recorded stand throw ever. I think it was over 65 meters or something, from what I've heard. That could have been a lot, but it was definitely over 60 meters, which is an insane stand throw. But I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Perković could probably stand throw that, or even more, honestly. Maybe not 65 meters. That may have been an exaggeration. But they can stand throw over 60, guaranteed. So that's something to keep in mind, too. If you're a woman, speed, just slamming the hips, you can go very far with that. All right? So that's one of the things men can't do. And I'm not saying that she doesn't work the ground. She kind of does, but she doesn't really do it. One, because it would slow her down. Because you don't really need to be as patient on a finish with a 1K. Because, one, the throw just happens so much faster just because, look at this. Men usually can't release like that. They have to be a little more patient on the finish. But she just goes bum. The second that left foot touches, boom, go. Which is what you want to do with a 2K as well. But it's more working the ground instead of just turning. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's just a difference between throwing a 1K and a 2K. So, yeah. I think I covered everything. So I'll link her many, many accomplishments in the video description, along with her PR and height and weight. I think, from memory, she's 6 foot, 187 or something. So, yeah. But hope you guys learned something, and I'll see y'all in the next time. Have a good day.